This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
Special Fight the Future Minute podcast. I'm your host, Marlene Stemme. You're listening to our coverage of minute 102 of the X-Files Fight the Future. This minute begins at 101 minutes with a close-up of Scully, non-responsive, draped over Mulder's shoulder, and ends at 101 minutes and 59 seconds with Mulder shielding Scully in a kneeling posture as the cryopods around them rupture. To discuss this minute, I am joined by X-Cast patron Michelle Milbauer. Welcome back to Fight the Future Minute, Michelle.
Hi, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you again. So, when last we left Mulder and Scully, we were watching them climb into, or Mulder was rather encouraging Scully to reach up and grab the vent and discovered that she was unconscious and that she looked a bit blue and frozen. So things are not looking good. And so we start with a close-up of Scully's face, non-responsive, and Mulder lowering her to the ground. And then in the background around them, we hear more of that kind of dripping and gurgling and the snarling noises as the aliens gestate, I guess, or come to life inside their hosts in the cryopods.
At this point, the cryopods seem to be melting more quickly. So they really ratchet up that anxiety, like, oh no, gotta get moving. Grab that pipe. Oh crap, you can't. And now they're moving around even quicker in there. So yeah, it just ratchets up that anxiety and that feeling of kind of dread, I guess, for lack of a better term. And even ratchets up kind of that claustrophobic feeling that some of these scenes have given. Like, it's the two of them and who knows how many of these alien creatures that are hatching all around them. And oh my goodness. Even rewatches, like knowing what happens and you still kind of scooch to the edge of your seat, I guess, or I do. That might be just my problem. But still,
no, I think it's very effective.
That, yes, very effective, and just, yeah, you get right back into it again, even after all this time. Fun isn't the right word, but it kind of is.
It's like tense movie fun, for sure, and you care what's going on because it's Mulder and Scully. And then I was thinking back when you were talking to a minute earlier in our series, when they show it's a chromatograph of the men when they're still in the station are looking at the vaccine infiltrating the system.
Yes.
Spreading among the cryopods.
Right.
And so you kind of see how, not necessarily how many there are in the whole place, but just how that's spreading so quickly. And so now you're seeing the effect of that and what's really happening.
Right. Which makes me wonder, which is a question, I suppose, for one of the earlier minutes, but if Mulder introducing the vaccine into the system via Scully and that feeding tube thing that she had in her, were there others that were taken and initially infected by whether it a bee sting or whatever else at the same time as her? They kind of got trapped in there. I know he can't save everybody that's in there, but if there's somebody else in the same stage of this nightmare that she was in, like, were there other people that could have escaped but now are just kind of left in their freezer pod?
I think that's what... Yeah.
It's kind of a horrifying thought, and I hadn't thought of it before, and now I wish I hadn't.
I think that's what we're supposed to assume, and I think earlier in those minutes, either while he's looking for Scully, more so while he's looking for her, he's looking to identify her in these cryopods, and we're seeing other people, I guess, that are in there, so I would have to imagine...
you don't know what they're...
that similar things have happened to them.
But if they're farther along in this metamorphosis than she was, and that's kind of an unsavory thought.
It is, because you just have to get your person and leave the other ones behind,
right?
Or nobody else is gonna come to get them.
But I guess it just reinforces the horror of these experiments that the consortium is, and our friend Smokey, cigarette smoking man, is inflicting on people, and they're not people to him. They're just test subjects, and again, kind of a gross thought, but. I guess
It is,
an effective way of illustrating it.
And it's kind of left on the margins. I mean, I think rightfully so, because Mulder and Scully are in peril, and that's the thing that we're going to attend to.
We're there
closely.
for, right.
But they do bring that other aspect to it, that there are all these other people that if something's happened to them as well, you know, they have stories too. So it's there. I just think it's, you know, it's in the background.
Yeah.
But at this point, so we're seeing the aliens, like as you said, like more and more of them are coming to life. It's interesting that they're sort of coming to life as Scully is losing hers.
Right.
So you have all of this, you know, this, not conflagration, but just like this larger and larger number of these beings coming to life, and then the life is kind of draining out of her. So Mulder just put her on the ground, he unzips her coat, and he takes a moment at this point to look up at the alien that's angrily thrashing against the confines, like inside the body, which is kind of this like gelatinous looking substance that's in the nearby cryopod. So his attention is kind of going back and forth a bit, sort of gauging the situation and then also attending to her. So he looks down at it's kind of like across the row of cryopods. So he's seeing all of them, and that this is going to be this, you know, birthing of aliens is going to happen in each one, I guess. And then I noticed too that each of the cryopods is kind of swinging back and forth from the force of the aliens coming to life. I thought that was really effective to show just like the physicality and the violence of what's happening.
Yeah, that, and I also, you see in the background, and then of course in the minutes going forward, that there's, you know, a disturbance within the ship itself, like it's almost unmooring, like it's getting ready for its takeoff because it's trying to escape this toxin, I guess, that it was in the vaccine, effectively,
right,
that Mulder is injected into Scully and therefore into everything else. So between the violence of these eggs, for lack of a better term, because effectively that's what they are, they're consuming their host and then they're going to hatch, right, which is also a really gross thought. It makes me not want to have eggs tomorrow for breakfast. But that's a whole other yuck.
little pods.
Yeah, like ooh. But yeah, so there's the violence of that, plus then the violence of the ship effectively preparing to leave, which also just ratchets up another level of the desperation that Mulder feels, and that we as the audience also feel, like this is getting really bad really quickly. What's going to happen here?
I never think about the ship getting ready to leave, because I'm thinking about them and I'm thinking about what's happening with the aliens. But that's a good point too. They're kind of surrounded on all fronts with, I don't know, what seems hopeless. It's not, but it just seems like it's a very daunting task ahead. I also in my notes have, why is Mulder looking around so much?
Yeah, like your partner is unconscious, presumably not breathing. You're going to waste precious seconds looking around at the critters around you, like, no, help her first and then get out.
And then, right. So it's what's going to happen is going to happen. You can't stop something with that. So that always, it's very much in keeping with Mulder, but it just kind of bothers me each time that it happens, that he looks around. So finally he focuses and he pinches her nose and breathes into her mouth. Yeah,
not the lip lock I was looking for. No. Nope.
So, but do you remember though that Chris Carter made some comment at the time that for Mulder and Scully, the combination of the intent to kiss in the hallway scene and then the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation equaled a kiss.
Yeah, I remember that. And nope, that doesn't fly. Sorry.
Right. See,
doesn't count.
I'm okay with that. you know me, not a shipper, at least in that way. Yeah. So I was like, okay, like this makes more sense for them than a sort of typical romantic kiss in the hallway. Not that wasn't, a personal and emotional scene in its own right, but this just seemed... Aside from the trauma aspect and the almost dying, it seemed more them.
No, I wasn't satisfied with that, but, oh well.
I mean, he is saving her life, though.
Yeah.
That's what's most important.
Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember those interviews after the fact and just wanting to throw something at him even back then. Like, really? That wasn't nice.
Yeah.
Shipper even then, what can I say?
Yeah, I wasn't even then. I mean, we're going back to that other minute, but this is kind of like, I guess, if Chris Carter's going to say it's the follow-up to that, then we can discuss it. Because in my movie theater, when they got to the hallway scene and they didn't kiss, everybody laughed. I heard from a friend that everybody in her theater was like relieved that they didn't kiss, and then somebody else said that everybody was like, of course, disappointed that they didn't kiss. So like in that era, I guess there were different responses. Although I'm sure that now it would be mostly disappointment, but to me the C.P.R. was the thing that worked out.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. So it does the job. The aliens are screeching and thrashing again in the body in the midst of Mulder's C.P.R. So he's again looking around at the aliens, and Scully's still unconscious, and he's administering chest compressions while he's also looking at the aliens.
If that's what we're going to call those. That was
that's
that
true.
was a very feeble attempt at CPR. Now, I mean, realistically, he's not going to crack her ribs. I mean, they all got beat up, literally and figuratively, making this movie. He's not actually going to crack her sternum, but it was just like, cut that scene so it at least looks like effective CPR. I mean,
yeah, that's true. So he's administering nonviolent chest compressions.
Yeah, there we go.
Say, I'm trying to remember, because I feel like there's a couple scenes in the series in which she has performed CPR that looked a little more realistic. But this one definitely is probably not doing too much. But he tells her to breathe, and she actually does revive, so whatever he's done has worked. And he's still looking at the alien while she starts breathing. But when she starts coughing, she's kind of panicked and looks around. And so now Mulder does attend. I'm not that he's not attending to her, but you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of like attending to everything.
Yeah, he's looking at everything around him, including her, but her over here, absolutely. What's happening over there, what's going on behind me, what's going on ahead of me, and oh yeah, you're still here, kind of. Yeah.
Maybe not that kind
No,
but yes,
of course.
Exactly.
But
at that moment, he kind of focuses in, and he's just like sort of calming her and telling her to breathe. Now that to me is more romantic than like a hallway kiss, I would say. That was my whole discussion that I mentioned with the socks. It's like these little things of survival and taking care, and sort of in the midst of everything, he kind of creates this calming, space for them for a moment.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So Scully starts to say something, and Mulder leans in to hear her, and then she says the "I had you big time" line. Now, I like that they smile, and I like that they have some humor in the midst of this, and levity in the midst of the trauma. I like that for them, but I just don't believe Scully would do that.
It's wholly unrealistic. I mean, I get it. It's going back to, but I mean, what about this isn't completely unrealistic? There's aliens hatching from big green eggs beside you.
But within the story, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Within this character of Scully, I just don't see it.
Yeah, but I mean, she did it to him earlier with "Had you big time." I mean, it was an ongoing joke, and I guess the way I rationalized it to myself was that, again, a callback to his panic face. Like, clearly he's full on panic face. She comes to, he's trying to get her to calm down, I guess, breathe. Mm-hmm. Everything sucks right now, but we're going to be okay, whatever, breathe, look at me. Meanwhile, full on panic face. So her way of letting him know that it's going to be okay as she then throws back at him, "I had you big time." I guess that's the way I justified it to myself, because I mean, while I have a twisted sense of humor, clearly, to anybody that's listened to any of these that I've done with these minutes or any other episodes that I've been involved in, I got a messed up sense of humor. And so I enjoyed Scully's maybe slightly inappropriate timing for said sense of humor, but I'm like, hey, that's pretty twisted. I like that. But I mean, again, I like
that interpretation as a reassurance to him, though.
Yeah, like he's full on panic face. Okay, he's trying to, keep me here. That's her way of keeping him in the here. Like, stay here with me. Like, don't be freaking out. So he's trying to, they're kind of anchoring each other.
Yeah, I think that's a really good interpretation. I did notice, this is a filming nitpick, they used two different takes for the scene, because in the moment before, Mulder had sort of gently moved the hair out of Scully's face, and when he leans in to hear what she says, the hair is back in her face.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Because I always looked I noticed there was something off about that, but I wasn't paying attention to it until I went through it slowly.
Yeah, the one thing that initially, like, none of these things popped into my brain at all. It was just like full on just in it. But upon rewatches, you just have to think, like, whatever they put in her hair to make it look like that is just really gross. It's like that sticky, slimy, like, texture that it has. Like, that's gross. It's really gross looking.
It's on her face,
yeah.
too. I mean, yeah.
Ugh.
And they were filming in there for a while, so that's just, I guess, the less than glamorous thing that we usually don't think about.
Yeah, that had to be unpleasant.
So at this point, again, like, they're kind of in this sort of moment of calm that they've created, and then Mulder once again notices that the aliens around them are making threatening noises and beginning to burst out of their cryopods. So this would be the time for him to pay attention to the external surroundings, I think.
Yeah.
So he jerks Scully up from the ground. She's still coughing, but she's alive. They got to get moving. So the minute ends with Mulder holding Scully kind of in a kneeling position, sort of surrounding her as the cryopods in the tanks are starting to rupture. So is there anything else that you had about the minute that we didn't discuss or thoughts on that?
I don't think so. Just, again, that the visual effect or the digital effects of those aliens moving around in there was still just impressive considering the time frame. I mean, not that 1998 was, the dark ages, but how far along things have come since then, that was still such an effective scene. I was just still impressed by that.
Okay, so that is all for this Fight the Future Minute. We will be back next time for Minute 103, for which I will also be joined by Michelle. In the meantime, Michelle, where can our listeners follow you on social media?
I am on Twitter at mmbaker13.
And I'm on Twitter at MarleneMHS, and also on Facebook in the XCast Basement Group. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Michelle, for being here and discussing this. And until next time, trust no one.
Elsewhere on We Made This. Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast.
We've already got 3 versions, I think, haven't we? So
we've got Ace as well.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking just up to this episode. So we've got the Living Rimmer, a hologram Rimmer, and a backup hologram Rimmer. So we've already got 3 Rimmers in the space of 6 episodes.
That's more Rimmers than many people would want.
Yeah, but it's certainly worth diving into because as you get into, as you say, Ace Rimmer, there's a couple of versions of Ace Rimmer. There's
Evil Future Rimmer.
Without a mouse.
I don't know if I've ever heard Gaelic spoken before, but I don't think this man was speaking Gaelic.
I don't speak Gaelic, so I'm afraid I cannot speak to that. But given how absolutely obsessive Stevenson seems to have been in most other regards, I think he might have been speaking some form of gibberish.
Yeah, we've seen in this show, especially in One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, some very horrific...
Yes.
And Herbie as well, actually, in the Love Bug. Lots of dialogue that is clearly made up language, supposed to be Chinese. So my bum was clenching a bit when I heard this supposed Gaelic, because I'm pretty sure it's not.
Free with this month's issue.
I decided to have a look to see if I could find that interview online anywhere, and I couldn't, but in my searching, the photo from that interview was collected on a website called thestrokesartilluminati.blogspot.com.
The Strokes are a bunch of overrated hacks, then?
No, they're actually Illuminati, apparently, according to this website.
I mean, that explains a lot, right?
They are the secret rulers of the world.
Yeah, I mean, current climate, that seems to be the work of the Strokes.
Yeah. Maybe that's all what was hidden in the album.
It's almost certainly.
New York City cops meant something else.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.